Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Hammer. Today is Monday, October 7th, 2024. I, of course, am with Originator Success here, the Daily Mortgage Rate Update, the only place on the web where you get to join me live each and every day, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time, broadcasting to you live on Facebook and on YouTube. Of course, you can always come back and watch it later. If you want to watch the replay, just go ahead and look on my feed or look on our YouTube page. When you do, though, make sure that you go ahead and put hashtag replay in the comments. Let me know that you were here. If you're here live this morning, make sure you say good morning. And Halloween is coming early, my friends. This is frightening. We're going to go deeper this morning. Unfortunately, I have bad news. So don't get mad at me. But yeah, it's I'm not liking what we're seeing here. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But if you're here this morning, go ahead and smash that like button. If you're on Facebook, give it that thumbs up. Tag an LO friend. Share us in a group. You can use that little share button, or go ahead if you're on YouTube, make sure you go ahead and click that little thumbs up on YouTube and leave a comment. So as y'all are joining, it shows me number 6, but then I have 9 people that have said good morning. So that's kind of funny. Oh, there it goes. Numbers going up now. As people get on, let's go ahead and just go through the usual stuff. Remember, you can sign up for a written email, Lock Advice, www.ratelockadvice.com. It's absolutely free. You can sign up for that, have that delivered to your inbox each and every weekday morning. You could also sign up for text alerts, www.ratetextalerts.com. If you'd like a reminder that I'm going live each morning, you can sign up for that at any time, hmmr.io/reminder, or use this cool QR code. You could also check us out at originatorssuccess.com. Find out how we help you to get loans from Google and social media. Check out this cool QR code over here for that as well. So that part out of the way, let's say good morning, and then we'll get into the ugly stuff. And it is ugly, unfortunately. We'll talk about what's going on. So good morning, Allison Foy. Great to see you. Deb Dickinson, thank you for joining me this morning. Monica Dinkins, always a familiar face. Hope your weekend was good. Amy Blauser, good morning. Megan Lindberg, great to have you here. Michael Love, good morning, sir. Angela Walters, it's an okay morning. Hey, any day we see the ceiling, it's a good day. But yeah, no, for rates and pricing and outlook, things have turning quickly. We're going to talk about that. Mallory Fotiadis, good morning. Tanya Wormund, good morning. Thomas Sloan, great to have you here. Rob Stewart, good to see you. Austin Smith over on the YouTubes. Hello, sir. Ron Siegel, good morning. We haven't seen you, Ron. Hope all is well in your world. Today is a day. What we really need is National Bourbon Day or National Vodka Day, because I got bad news for you. But it is National Chocolate Covered Pretzel Day. Probably my least favorite thing. I'm not big on that sweet salty thing with chocolate and pretzels. It's not my thing. Who likes chocolate covered pretzels? Let me know in the comments. Good morning, Ben Vogler. Great to have you here as well. So, all right, I'm going to let's jump in and go over what's going on this morning and kind of the big picture. I don't have it all broken down in thirds here, but we're going to go with it anyway. So, as we start the morning, we're down 19 basis points to start the day. Remember on Friday, let's just do a quick recap. On Friday, we got job data, came in 254,000 jobs created versus an expectation of about 150,000 jobs that were expected. That unemployment also was 4.1 versus 4.2. Actually, I want this one. Let me go side by side. Sorry, got an itchy head today. So as we sit on this stuff, basically what we got going on, again, on Friday, we kind of took that on the chin here. You could see that mortgage-backed securities, before last week, we were flirting with the 25-day moving average. The outlook didn't look bad at all. I had been in a floating stance, and I figured we'd see a rebound and things would improve. But instead, what happened is that we started to lose ground, and on Friday, the bottom washed out. And with all of the storm problems that we have here in Western North Carolina, I hate using these analogies right now, but it's basically like a mudslide. This looks like my retaining wall. If y'all don't know what my retaining wall looks like, I'll show you. This is what my retaining wall looks like. So this is kind of what's happened to bonds and rate sheet pricing. It's just washed right out and busted through our support, right? So this too shall pass, and I will fix this. And this too shall pass. But it's definitely painful to feel it. The 10-year treasury yield broken the solemn 4.0 mark. This is a big deal. Take a look at what we have seen. Again, this is too much, too hard, but because markets are based on emotion, and we're going to talk more about that, this is something that really we have to be paying attention to. So the 10-year treasury yield on October 1st, which was just less than it was less than a week ago, right? So here we can even go on September 30th. It was at 3.78. Today we're at 4.01. We have seen over the last few days that very strong turn, and we will see this start to recover, but in the near term this is not good. And what's happening is we're seeing a big shift in what markets believe is going to happen here. All right. So bond traders buckle up for no landing. Remember, the term was soft landing. Now they're buckling up for no landing after the jobs surprise. Strong growth in payrolls sends treasury yields surging. Risk is that growth and inflation keep Fed cuts in check. So we're seeing a shift. This is not just in the headlines. We're seeing this play out in real time in all of the data, right? So right now, the 10-year treasury yield has shot up, which means mortgage rates have shot up. We went to 6.5. They're creeping even higher today. This is the other thing that really concerns me. Let's do compare, right? We went from an expectation a month ago that we would see, or even a week ago, that we would 4.25. We'd see a 0.5 point rate cut in November. A week ago, September 30th, there was an expectation, 35%, that we would see a 0.5 point rate cut. Now there's an expectation of 15% that the Fed will not cut rates at all at the November meeting. Now, what's funny about this is the same articles, the same people quoted in the articles, or at least the same kinds of people, the ones that were all saying, oh my goodness, the Fed's not acting fast enough. They need to be cutting rates. We're already in this. Well, now all of a sudden, they're like, hey, we're not going to see this at all, right? So where is let me see if it's here we go. We've expected higher yields, but anticipated a somewhat gradual adjustment. Goldman Sachs Group strategists, including George Cole, wrote in a note, the extent of strength in the September jobs report may have accelerated that process, with renewed debate on the extent of policy restriction and, in turn, the likely depth of Fed rate cuts. So if I were to put this on a meter, right, we went from full steam ahead, Fed rate cuts, expectations in December that we would see cuts maybe down to 3.75, almost definitely down to 4. Now that has dropped to less than 7%. So we went from almost 50% a week ago to 7%. This is a huge shift. Now, last week, when I was saying rates will recover, rates will get better, we'll see better rates, that was when the data and the markets and traders were looking at the idea that we would see Fed rate cuts and that things were here. When we see this shift, well, now Hammer's opinion changes, and it's changing based on the data that's going on here. What are we seeing? So I think this is a stupid overreaction to the BLS jobs data. I think many of you have also talked about the fact that anybody that's out there that has talked to people recognizes that the economy is not doing nearly as well. We know that it's being driven based on credit and people spending money they don't have. But over the last couple of weeks, the small data points that have come in, right, have given this idea that the economy is doing well. So again, Ron's doubling down. Ron says, I'll call it again, 50 basis point rate cut in November, right? So Ron's doubling down on it. Brandy says it will shift again when they adjust the job numbers. Now, let's remember, we get the next meeting on November 7th. We get a jobs report on November 1st. So, Brandy, you're right. We may see a big shift there between now and then. But also, the only thing we've got going on between now and that, I mean, we could talk about the PCE inflation report, but we've got CPI this week. It's on the 10th, on Thursday. So that CPI report, it's not going to it's not going to restore rates, but maybe it'll stop the bleeding. But again, Ron said revisions to August were over 50% government. Private sector revisions lost jobs. Ron, how come we're the only ones that see this? How come markets have turned tail and are just totally off base freaking out about this? And again, this is what is driving everything, y'all. It's not the realities, it's the emotions and the emotions of what's going on. So the no landing scenario, a situation where the U.S. economy keeps growing, inflation reignites, and the Fed Reserve has little room to cut interest rates, has largely disappeared as a bond market talking point in recent months. It only took a blowout payrolls report to revive it. Data showing the fastest job growth in 6 months. Again, ridiculously strong. This is what happened to us back. Which report was it that we got previously? Was it August 5th? No, it would have been, yeah. So it was this one, the one before August. Was it the July one? July would have been July 5th. Let's see, July. Yeah, so that one was positive. Friday, June 7th. Yep, there you go. So remember this one right here, Friday, June 7th. Right here, Friday, June 7th, when we had this huge dip. But then we rebounded a couple of days later. This time around, we've gotten this huge dip. Oh, look at that. It's let me refresh it because that's not accurate. We're down 24 freaking basis points. Ron's pointing out headlines move markets. What I'm sharing is the deep dive. Powell will see what I'm sharing. I'm just a radio mortgage guy, and I see this, right? And what you're sharing is durable goods manufacturing lost 85,000 jobs in 2024, while information and mining also saw significant declines. Education, healthcare sectors accounted for about 50% of private sector job creation. Only jobs added were non-recessionary jobs. Durable goods, let's see, average work week fell to 34.2 hours, lowest level of the year, equates to a loss of around 3. So we see it. We know everything that Ron's putting on here, all those different things, very true. But what we have to recognize right now is the way markets are reacting. We will see this turn around, but it's going to get worse before it gets better. So what happened, and I would just want to, again, this is the forum where I get the ability to explain my thinking in a little bit more detail. When we were coming through, these last few stages that I've been in a very strong floating stance, the idea was the Fed is going to cut rates. Markets were absolutely betting on the idea. I mean, here we were a month ago. They were betting on the idea just a week ago, that we would cut rates down to 4.25. And now the expectation is 4.5 or maybe no rate cuts in November, right? So the expectation, quarter point cut, still an 86% favorite, but we're starting to bleed over. Now, even on Friday, this is more residual, I want to call it like delayed panic, because even on Friday, we didn't really have this idea that the Fed was going to not cut rates in November. And there's no way the Fed is going to have cut rates by 0.5 point and then stop. They know that they need to keep some momentum on this. So going into the December, again, right now, expectations 4.25. We're at 4.75 right now. So 2 quarter point cuts, a little bit of a lead that we would only see a quarter point cut between now and then. There's a lot that's going to happen in October with politics. We do, of course, have the election, which will take place on the 5th. And by the time we get to the meeting on the 7th, politics will not be at play as far as who wins the presidential election. But between now and then, this is what's driving everything. The underperformance in shorter dated U.S. Treasuries, which are more sensitive to monetary policies, left the key part of the yield curve inverted once again, with 2-year yields trading above 10-year rates for the first time since September 18th. So the one thing I'm trying to get across here, we have seen a very, very strong reversal with bonds continuing to worsen and taking big chunks, which we will see recovery from, but I can't tell you when. And I can't say that it's going to be over the next couple of days. The CPI data probably not going to be enough to do anything but slow down the damage or possibly stop the bleeding. It's not going to be a reversal. It's not going to bring back the rates that were here. 30 days from now, 40 days from now, we could absolutely be back to where we were. That's not something that would be totally unheard of. Remember, it took one day. This Friday was the real day that we saw that move. If we had gotten jobs data that showed another weak report, we would have gotten our bounce and things would have improved. The fact that we got this 254,000 jobs created, over 150,000, and as Ron has pointed out, it's government jobs, all these other different things. It's not real growth. It's not a strong market. The JOLTS data showed a little bit higher job openings than what we were expecting. But none of this is really being strongly supported. But the expectation here, markets, this is momentum right here. Momentum is against us. Things on the near term is going to be there. Ron said, what's the shortest refi boom in history? Exactly. Now, what you have to remember is it goes and it comes. It goes and it comes. We're 16 minutes in, so I don't want to spend more than a minute talking about this. But this is why you have to be lining up all of your dominoes. And then when we get rates that dip, then we push them back down again. And we will. So I put out a show segment, rsrlinks.com. What's your number to ask my clients what number they want to restructure their current loan? This way we get all their docs in place, disclosures out. And if we get that short-term drop again, we're ready to act. Exactly. And we will, we've seen this before. We've seen this ridiculous reaction. Then we've got better data. Then it comes to this. We're going to see more volatility. We just have to be ready for it. And I'm sorry that I've led you astray up till now. Again, I'm giving you the reason why I forecast the way that I forecast. The jobs data and the reaction to it, very, very strong, is shifting momentum again, shifting it against us. Have to be very aware of it, but it will turn back. But this really does put a dent in all of the expectations, because before this ridiculous payroll report and before this even more ridiculous reaction to it, as I've pointed out, we were expecting, almost a 35% expectation just a week ago that there would be a half a point rate cut, not even a quarter point rate cut, a half a point rate cut. And now there's a 15% expectation there would be no rate cut in November. So right now you're seeing pricing that's reflecting this ridiculousness, this overreaction that the Fed might not raise rates, this idea here that there's a no landing scenario where things are, a situation where things are going to keep getting worse. I could tell you, if the CPI data, if the CPI data on Thursday does not show improvement, it could ignite things to get even worse. We could get worse from here. So I know it's a very uncomfortable spot to be in as an originator. All you can do is communicate to your borrowers what's going on and why we're seeing the changes that we're seeing. People that want to float, again, if it's longer term, I'm not panicking yet. It's going to get worse before it's going to get better, but we are in an environment where we need to see rates come down. It just is the reality. The economy is slowing, but the idea here that the Fed is focused on jobs, this most recent jobs data coming in as a crusher, has definitely put a brutal spin on things. And we need to be aware that we've seen quite the reversal. Does it belong here? I'm going to say no, but it's here. Same thing for December. When we compare the probabilities, on Friday and today, it's basically the same. But just a week ago, it was only a 40% expectation would be at 4.25, and it was a 47% expectation that would be a 4. That has dwindled down to just 7%. We've seen a huge shift over this last week, and it really didn't happen on Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday. It happened on Friday. This change was on Friday. So we need to watch this. What we're looking for, I don't want to say good news because it's not good news. What this does open the door is we will see rates recover when expectation goes back to, okay, maybe we were a little too worried about this. The economy is not that strong. The labor market is not that strong. And the Fed is going to cut rates. The Fed didn't cut rates by a quarter point last meeting just to stop cutting. Okay. Because of one report. Just like they weren't going to cut because of one really weak report, they're not going to stop cutting because of one strong report. And as Brandy pointed out, we'll absolutely see revisions to the report. But and as Ron pointed out, the jobs that were created are garbage jobs, are government jobs. They're not private sector stuff. But we did see some ADP private sector improvement. There's enough out there showing some strength. Near term, you've got to be locking. We look like it can get worse before it gets better until we see signs of this actually reversing. Again, I expected to see that reversal on Friday. I expected we would have seen that bounce right here, have gotten some improvement. We would have seen the 10-year Treasury yield pulling off of this 3.85, 3.83 level here on Thursday and improve. Instead, it pushed above it, closed at 3.96. Now we're at 4.01. The next level of support is 4.08. That is the 100-day moving average at about 4.08. If it gets worse there, mortgage-backed securities, they've got down to this 100-day moving average here at 99.96. That is another 40 basis points lower than where we're at now, before, which it could go down to before we see a reversal. We will see a reversal. Again, this is a extended reaction to dumb data. But this will turn around, but it might not turn around as quickly. So we've got to monitor it. We've got to just see where the sentiment is. Wherever the sentiment goes is where rates are going to go. That's what we have to be prepared for right now. So Chris said we're created for election results. You know what? Nothing would surprise me anymore. It really wouldn't. I can't argue that it's not, because it's so outlandishly out of whack. It almost seems like it has to be. It's like when they say when you rule out the impossible, what's left is the improbable. No matter how improbable, what's left is the so I don't disagree. But as far as that goes, hopefully this gives you guys some information. Again, it's going to be a bit of a rough road for a little while. Keep your chin up. We will see things come back. The good news is that you can be having conversations with consumers about taking advantage of when those opportunities come. People that are locking in now they're going to be open for refinance opportunities, not so soon, but a little bit later. So, we'll see those. All right, my friends, we'll keep your chins up, and I will see you tomorrow. And hopefully we will get a little bit of a reprieve, and we'll go from there. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a fantastic day. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.